The Los Angeles Lakers just got embarrassed on national television. And the man who was supposed to save them, the man everyone was pointing fingers at, wasn't even a problem. But here's the thing nobody's talking about. The real story isn't about the Lakers losing Game 1. The real story is about something far bigger. Something that should terrify every single team left in these playoffs. Because what the Oklahoma City Thunder did to the Lakers wasn't just a win. It wasn't just a good performance. What the Thunder did was send a message to the entire NBA. And that message was simple, cold, and brutal. We are different. And Stephen A. Smith, he saw it. He said it out loud on national television. He looked straight into that first take camera, and he told the world something that most people didn't want to hear. Something that cuts right through all the noise, all the blame, all the finger pointing. And once you hear what he said, once you actually understand what's happening with this Thunder team, you're going to look at these playoffs completely differently. So stay with me, because the story, it's just getting started. Let's go back to the moment it all broke open. Game 1, Oklahoma City Thunder versus the Los Angeles Lakers. The playoffs, high stakes, bright lights, sold-out arena, LeBron James on one side, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander on the other. Every sports fan in America locked in, ready to watch something unforgettable. And unforgettable is exactly what they got, just not in the way the Lakers hoped. From the opening tip, something felt wrong for Los Angeles. Not wrong like they were nervous. Not wrong like they were unprepared. Wrong like they were playing against a force of nature they simply had no answer for. The Thunder came out like a team possessed. Like a team that had been waiting for this moment for months. Like a team that had something to prove, not to the world, but to themselves. And the Lakers look lost. Now look, losing Game 1 of a playoff series doesn't automatically mean you're done. History is full of teams that dropped Game 1 and came back to win the series. We've seen it 1,000 times. So by itself, the loss isn't the story. The story is how they lost. The story is the margin. The story is the body language. The story is a look on faces that have been in these moments before veterans, champions, guys who stood at the top of this sport, wearing expressions that said one thing loud and clear: we don't know what to do about this team. And that brings us straight to First Take. That brings us straight to Stephen A. Smith sitting across from his co-host, leaning forward, voice rising, the way he does when he knows something important is unfolding. Because Stephen A. didn't come in there to pile on the Lakers. He didn't come to bash LeBron. He didn't come to make cheap jokes about a team that just lost a game. He came to tell the truth. And the truth had two parts. Two separate conversations happening at the same time. And if you blur them together, you miss the whole point. Part 1. Austin Reaves. Okay, here's where it gets interesting. After Game 1, the social media machine cranked up immediately. That's what happens now. The second a game ends, the takes start flying. And one of the loudest takes circulating after this Lakers loss was directed at Austin Reaves, AR-15, the guy from Arkansas who became a fan favorite in Los Angeles. The guy who went from undrafted to starter to someone Lakers fans genuinely love. People were blaming him. Now, was Austin Reaves perfect in Game 1? No. Were there moments where you wanted more? Sure. But here's what Stephen A. Smith did that most people on the internet refuse to do. He looked at the actual game. He looked at what was being asked of Austin Reaves. He looked at the situation, the matchups, the defensive pressure the Thunder was bringing, the way Oklahoma City was executing their game plan, and he said something that cut straight through the noise. Don't blame AR-15. Think about what it actually means to be Austin Reaves in that situation. You're playing against one of the most disciplined, well-coached, athletically gifted defensive teams in the entire NBA. You're trying to create shots, not just for yourself, but for your teammates. You're trying to be the secondary playmaker on a team where the primary guy is LeBron James, a 39-year-old, physical wonder who is still doing things that defy all logic, but who is also carrying a weight that no single human being should be expected to carry alone. And people want to put the loss on Austin Reaves? Stephen A. saw through it immediately. He wasn't making excuses for a bad performance. He was providing context. Context that matters. Context that changes the entire picture. Because if you're going to diagnose why the Lakers lost game one, you can't just point at one player and call it a day. That's lazy. That's the easy way out. The real diagnosis is much more uncomfortable. Here's where the story shifts. Here's where it gets bigger. Because while the conversation about Austin Reaves was happening, while people were debating whether he was good enough, whether he was a problem, whether the Lakers needed something different, Stephen A. Smith pivoted. He did what he does best. He elevated the conversation. And what he said next is what I need you to really hear. He said the Thunder outclassed everyone, not just the Lakers. Everyone. Let that sit for a second. He's not talking about game one in isolation. He's talking about a pattern. A sustained, consistent, jaw-dropping pattern of excellence from a team that many people, not all people, but many people still haven't fully accepted as a real thing, as a genuine article, as an organization that has built something that could last not just this year, but for years to come. The Oklahoma City Thunder, led by Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, are playing a brand of basketball that is genuinely different from what most teams in this league produce. And Stephen A. was standing on that table, waving a flag, saying, "Pay attention. Look at this. Don't blink, because what you're watching is something rare." Let's talk about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander for a moment, because you can't talk about this Thunder team without talking about SGA. That's just not possible. Here is a player who moves like water. Seriously, watch him sometime with no agenda, with no rooting interest, and just watch the way he navigates defense. He flows. He bends. He finds angles that shouldn't exist. He gets the spots on the floor that defenders are absolutely certain he cannot reach. And then he's there, calm, composed, ready to make the right play. He is the engine of everything Oklahoma City does offensively. But what makes him uniquely dangerous, what makes him different from just another great scorer, is his basketball IQ. His ability to process the game in real time and make decisions that seem almost impossibly correct. He's not just scoring. He's running a system. He's directing traffic. He's making the other four guys on the floor better simply by commanding the attention he commands. And the Lakers had no answer for him in game one. Now, LeBron James, to his credit, is still one of the best offensive minds in this sport. At 39 years old, think about that. His mind is still elite. His preparation is still elite. His understanding of spacing and help defense and rotations is still at the top of the game. But even LeBron can't be everywhere. Even LeBron can't solve a puzzle this complex by himself. Because the Thunder aren't a one-man show. That's the whole point. This is the part that doesn't get talked about enough. This is the part that separates the Thunder from teams that just have one great player surrounded by warm bodies. Oklahoma City has layers. They have Jalen Williams, a player who, on a different team, will be the best player in the building on most nights. A player who can score, distribute, defend, create for others, make big shots in big moments. He's not in SGA's shadow because he's lesser. He's in SGA's shadow because SGA is operating at a genuinely elite level. They have Chet Holmgren, the 7'1", stretch-everything nightmare who can shoot from perimeter, protect the rim, switch onto guards on perimeter, and make passing decisions that most bigs in the history of the sport couldn't dream of making. He's a completely new kind of player. A player that didn't really exist 10 years ago. A product of the modern game who is absolutely thriving in it. They have depth. They have shooting. They have defenders who can guard multiple positions. They have a coach in Mark Daigneault, who is so clearly one of the best in the business that it's almost unfair. This is not a one-dimensional team you can game plan around with some clever adjustments. This is a machine with multiple moving parts that all work together in perfect sync. And Stephen A. Smith sat on First Take and essentially said, "This is what we're dealing with now. This is the standard. And everyone else needs to figure out how to meet it." Let's come back to LeBron James. Because we have to. LeBron James has spent his entire career defying what's possible. Not just athletic possibility, conceptual possibility. The possibility of a human being maintaining this level of excellence across this many years, across this many miles, across this many games, series, seasons, championships, heartbreaks, comebacks, and reinventions. He has reinvented himself multiple times. The young, explosive athletic marvel in Cleveland, the polished, facilitating maestro in Miami, the unstoppable power forward in his second Cleveland run, the point center hybrid in Los Angeles. He has evolved with every chapter of his career in a way that almost no athlete in any sport ever has. And he's still doing it. In this Lakers team, in this moment, LeBron has tried to do something remarkable. Compete at a championship level while being the oldest player in the league, still performing at anywhere near the standard. And he's not just going through the motions. He's genuinely competing, genuinely giving everything he has. But here's the thing. Here's the honest, difficult truth that Stephen A. articulated without being cruel about it. Age is undefeated. It's not that LeBron can't still play. He clearly can. It's not that he's become a liability. He hasn't. It's that what the Thunder are doing right now, the energy, the athleticism, the depth, the freshness, is the kind of thing that is uniquely punishing for older teams. For teams that rely on a few guys who have to carry heavy minutes. For teams where the margin for error is thin, because you only have so many guys you can truly trust in big moments. The Thunder don't have that problem. When one guy is tired, another steps up. When one matchup isn't working, they have options. They are relentless in a way that is simply exhausting to face over the course of a 7-game series. And for a Lakers team built around one of the most extraordinary athletes in human history, a man who is running on some combination of talent, genius, and sheer willpower, that relentlessness is a very serious problem. Now here's where Stephen A. really got interesting. Here's where the first take conversation went to a place that wasn't just about basketball. He started talking about blame, because that's what happens in sports, especially in the age of social media. When a team loses, someone has to be blamed. That's the culture now. It's immediate, it's loud, and it rarely takes the time to understand what actually happened. Someone has to be the villain. Someone has to be the explanation. And the easy explanations after Game 1 were flying fast. Blame Austin Reaves for not doing enough. Blame the Lakers front office for not building a better roster. Blame the coaching staff for not having the right game plan. Blame LeBron for not being what he was at 25. And Stephen A., to his absolute credit, pushed back on all of it. Not because those conversations don't have any merit whatsoever. Some of them are worth having. But because they all miss the bigger picture. They all focus on what the Lakers failed to do without properly acknowledging what the Thunder succeeded in doing. There's a difference, a massive difference. And it matters for how you understand what happened and what might happen next. It's easy to focus on failure. It's easy to tear apart the losing team and pick through every mistake and assign blame and build narratives around why they're not good enough. Sports media is extremely good at this. Maybe too good. What's harder is to look at the winning team and recognize genuine greatness when it's in front of you. What's harder is to say, the Lakers didn't just have a bad game. They ran into something elite. They ran into a team that is operating at a level that would challenge anyone in this league. That's what Stephen A. was saying. That's the core of his take. And it's the right take. Let's talk about the Thunder's defense for a second. Because offense gets all the highlights, but defense, real, organized, committed, intelligent defense, is what wins playoff series. And Oklahoma City's defense is something to behold. They don't just play hard. Hard isn't enough at this level. Everybody plays hard in the playoffs. What the Thunder do is play smart. They communicate. They rotate. They help. They trust each other. They put you in situations where every decision you make is the wrong one, because they've already anticipated it. They've already prepared for it. For the Lakers, running sets that the Thunder had clearly studied, clearly prepared for, clearly practiced against. It was like trying to solve a puzzle that kept changing shape. Every time you thought you found an answer, the question changed. And that's a credit to Mark Daigneault and his staff. They have this team playing with a collective intelligence that is genuinely rare. They are not just talented. They are organized, disciplined, and relentlessly coachable. Those are qualities that money can't always buy. Those are qualities that have to be built over time, through culture, through a shared commitment to something bigger than individual stats or individual moments. Sam Presti, the Thunder's general manager, has been building this for years. Quietly, patiently. He had the courage to tear it all the way down after the Russell Westbrook era wound down, to accept short-term pain for long-term greatness, to draft correctly, to develop correctly, to build an infrastructure that could sustain excellence rather than just manufacture it for 1 or 2 seasons. And now here they are, reaping everything they planted. Let's zoom out for a second. Let's look at the bigger picture that Stephen A. was pointing toward. The NBA landscape right now is fascinating. There are teams with stars. There are teams with talent. But there are very few teams, genuinely very few, that have what the Thunder have. The combination of elite individual talent and elite organizational infrastructure and elite coaching and elite culture and youth and athleticism and depth. That combination is almost impossibly hard to assemble. Most teams get part of it. They get the star, but not the depth. They get the depth, but not the elite coaching. They get the coaching, but not the culture. Getting all of it at the same time is the kind of thing that happens maybe once a decade for any given franchise. The Boston Celtics of the late 1950s and 1960s had it. The Chicago Bulls of the 1990s had it. The San Antonio Spurs of the early 2000s had it. The Golden State Warriors, when they first emerged, had it. Right now, looking at this Thunder team, and this is a conversation Stephen A. was pushing, it genuinely feels like Oklahoma City might be the next team to join that list. The next team that we look back on years from now and say, that was a dynasty, that was an era, that was a standard. And if that's true, if that's actually what's happening, then Game 1 against the Lakers wasn't just a playoff win. It was the announcement. It was a thunderclap that tells you the storm has arrived. Subhook, let me ask you something. Do you know what the most dangerous thing about the Oklahoma City Thunder is? It's not Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, even though he's one of the best players alive right now. It's not their defense, even though it's elite. It's not their depth, even though it's exceptional. The most dangerous thing about the Oklahoma City Thunder is that they believe, they genuinely, completely, in every fiber of their collective being, believe that they can beat anyone, that they can outwork anyone, that they can outprepare anyone, that they can out-execute anyone, that any obstacle in their way, any great player, any legendary franchise, any historical legacy, is something they can overcome through effort, intelligence, and unity. That belief, that unshakable, not arrogant, not loud, just deep belief, is what makes great teams great. And the Thunder have it. You could see it in Game 1 against the Lakers. Not in a trash-talking way, not in a look-at-us way, in a quiet, purposeful, we know exactly what we are way. They went about their business with confidence that wasn't shaken by the pressure of the moment, wasn't rattled by the presence of LeBron James, wasn't intimidated by the history of the Los Angeles Lakers. They just played. And their just playing was better than the Lakers' best effort. That is the definition of a special team. Now, let's come back around to the first take conversation, because there's an element of it that I think is worth sitting with. When Stephen A. Smith says something like, don't blame AR-15, don't blame LeBron, the Thunder outclassed everyone. He's doing something that doesn't always happen on sports television, which is choosing to honor greatness instead of just chasing outrage. Sports media has an outrage problem, not unique to sports. All media has it right now. But in sports specifically, there's a constant hunger for controversy, for blame, for drama, for hot takes that make your blood boil. Because that stuff generates clicks. That stuff generates reactions. That stuff keeps the machine running. And Stephen A., say what you want about him, and plenty of people say plenty of things. Stephen A., at his best, is a storyteller who understands that the most compelling story isn't always the most controversial one. Sometimes the most compelling story is the one where you just describe what's actually happening with enough clarity and passion that people feel it. What's actually happening is that the Oklahoma City Thunder are very, very good. What's actually happening is that the Los Angeles Lakers face an incredibly difficult path in this series. What's actually happening is that LeBron James, at 39, is being asked to do something that challenges the limits of what's physically and competitively possible. And those truths don't require manufactured drama. They're dramatic on their own. Let's talk about what happens next. Because Game 1 is over. The result is what it is. The question now is, what do the Lakers do? This is where it gets genuinely interesting. Because if there's one man on earth you do not count out, it's LeBron James. History has proven this over and over and over again. He has been written off so many times. He has faced so many moments where the consensus was, this might be too much, even for him, and he has responded with performances that make you question everything you thought you knew about human possibility. The 2016 Finals. Down 3 games to 1 to a 73-win Golden State Warriors team. Everyone, including people who had watched him his entire career, thought it was over. He came back and won the championship, delivering 2 of the greatest performances in Finals history in Games 6 and 7. The 2018 Finals. Essentially alone, carrying a team that had no business being on the same floor as the Warriors, putting up numbers that no one else in the history of the sport has put up while losing a championship series, and somehow making that version of losing feel like a different kind of win. He has done the impossible so many times that the word impossible starts to lose its meaning when you're talking about LeBron James. So, down in Game 1 to the Thunder, facing a team that clearly outplayed them. Is it over? No, it is not over. It is very, very difficult, but it's not over. And that tension, that specific tension of watching a legend in the twilight of his career facing his most daunting challenge, is what makes this series one of the most compelling storylines in sports right now. Regardless of how you feel about LeBron, regardless of how you feel about the Lakers, the human drama of it is undeniable. Let's take a step back and address the people who came into Game 1 thinking the Lakers were going to handle this. Because there were people who thought that. There were people who looked at LeBron's regular season, looked at the Lakers' record, looked at Austin Reaves' development, looked at whatever version of a supporting cast they had assembled, and thought, yeah, they can make a run. Were those people delusional? Were they just blinded by love of the brand, love of the legacy, love of LeBron? Not entirely. No. Because the Lakers aren't a bad team. Let's be clear about that. They're a flawed team. They're a team that has some real limitations. But they're not a bad team. They got to playoffs. They won enough games to be here. They have legitimate talent. The problem is that legitimate talent isn't always enough. In the playoffs, in a series, you need more than talent. You need systems. You need depth. You need players who can be trusted in crucial moments. You need the ability to make adjustments, game to game, quarter to quarter, possession to possession, that keep you ahead of what the other team is doing. And right now, against this Thunder team specifically, the Lakers are being exposed in ways that are painful to watch. Not because any individual is failing catastrophically, but because the sum of what they can do, at their very best, isn't quite enough to match the sum of what the Thunder are doing. That's not a scandal. That's not a reason to burn anything down. It's just an honest assessment of where both teams are right now. Stephen A. Smith had the honesty to say it, and that matters. Let's loop back to something I said at the very beginning. Something I want you to remember. The Thunder didn't just send a message to the Lakers in Game 1. They sent a message to the entire NBA. Think about the other teams still in these playoffs. Think about every front office, every coaching staff, every star player watching what Oklahoma City is doing and quietly, privately, asking themselves, do we have an answer for this? Some of them probably don't have a great answer. Some of them are watching Shai Gilgeous-Alexander move through a defense like it's not even there and thinking, how do you guard that? Some of them are watching Chet Holmgren switch onto a guard 30 feet from the basket and erase a driving lane and thinking, how do you attack that? Some of them are watching Oklahoma City's bench come in and not only maintain the level of play, but sometimes elevate it and thinking, how do you outlast that? This is what truly elite teams do. They don't just beat you. They make everyone else in the league do math they don't like. They raise the competitive bar to a height that forces every competitor to look in the mirror and be honest about whether they can reach it. And Stephen A. Smith on First Take was essentially standing at the base of that bar and pointing up and saying, look at how high it is right now. Look at where this team has set the standard. There's a conversation that happens in sports around the concept of the torch passing. The idea that in every era, there's a moment where the previous generation of greatness steps aside and the new generation takes over. Sometimes it's clean. Sometimes it's messy. Sometimes the outgoing generation fights it tooth and nail, which is understandable because greatness doesn't go quietly. Are we watching a torch passing right now? Is this the moment where LeBron James era of the NBA officially gives way to the Shai Gilgeous-Alexander era? Is Game 1 of this first-round matchup going to look, in retrospect, like a historical marker? The point where the new generation announced itself the 0-1? I'm not going to pretend I know the answer to that. And I don't think Stephen A. would pretend either, because these things can only be confirmed in hindsight. History has a way of making transitions look cleaner and more decisive than they actually were in the moment. The people living through them often don't know they're living through something historic until it's already over. But I'll tell you this, the feeling, the vibe, the sense of something shifting, that was very much present in Game 1. And it was very much present on First Take the next morning. You could hear it in the way Stephen A. talked about the Thunder. There was something in his voice beyond normal sports analysis. There was something that sounded like recognition, like witnessing, like watching something happen that you know you'll be talking about for years. Let's talk about the coaching chess match. Because in a series like this, coaching matters enormously. And this is another area where the Thunder have a genuine advantage. Mark Daigneault is one of those coaches who exists in the new generation of NBA brilliance. He's analytically sophisticated without being robotically data-driven. He's a communicator. He's a relationship builder. He understands his players as complete human beings, not just basketball assets. And he prepares his teams with a level of detail and creativity that is genuinely impressive. His game plans are layered. They have a primary approach and built-in counters and adjustments within those counters. So when the opponent makes a move to try to take something away, Daigneault has already thought about that move and has an answer ready. It's chess at multiple levels simultaneously, and he plays it very, very well. For the Lakers coaching staff, the challenge is enormous. How do you disrupt a team that has answers prepared for all your questions? How do you force a young, disciplined, well-coached team to play outside their game plan when their game plan is comprehensive enough to handle almost anything? These are the questions that will define whether the Lakers can actually make this series interesting, whether they can find enough wrinkles, enough surprises, enough moments of individual brilliance that overcome the structural advantages Oklahoma City holds. It's possible. Stranger things have happened, but it requires a level of execution that the Lakers did not show in Game 1, and that's the honest truth. Here's something that doesn't get said enough about this Thunder team. They're having fun. I know that sounds simple. I know that sounds like an obvious thing to say. But in the context of professional basketball at the highest competitive level, where the pressure is immense and the scrutiny is constant and the stakes are as high as they get, genuine, visible, authentic fun is actually rare. Watch the Thunder. Watch how they interact with each other during timeouts. Watch how they celebrate a great play from a teammate. Not the performative celebration you sometimes see, the one that's almost more about the camera than the teammate, but the real thing, the genuine joy, the actual human delight in playing great basketball with people you genuinely like and respect. They're young, they're talented, they're winning, and they're doing it together in a way that looks and feels like something more than just professional colleagues executing a game plan. It looks like a team. It looks like genuine camaraderie. That stuff matters more than people think. In a playoff series, when the games get tight and the pressure becomes overwhelming and every mistake feels enormous, teams with genuine chemistry hold together better than teams that are just talented collections of individuals. The bond becomes a buffer against the pressure. The Thunder have that bond, and it shows. Let's bring it back to Stephen A. one more time, because the whole reason we're having this conversation is that First Take. And I want to be precise about what he actually did. He didn't just give a hot take. He didn't just yell about the Lakers. He didn't manufacture outrage for ratings. He made an argument, a real, substantive, layered argument. The argument was, Austin Reaves is not the reason the Lakers lost Game 1. LeBron James is not the reason the Lakers lost Game 1. The reason the Lakers lost Game 1 is that the Oklahoma City Thunder are playing basketball at a level that is outclassing not just the Lakers, but the entire field of NBA teams remaining in these playoffs. And if you want to understand what happened and what might happen next, you need to start from that foundation. You need to give credit where credit is genuinely, overwhelmingly due. That's a more interesting argument than just blaming somebody. That's a harder argument to make because it doesn't give you a simple villain or a simple fix. But it's the accurate argument. And accuracy, in a world drowning in noise, is valuable. Stephen A. Smith has built his entire career on being loud and passionate, and sometimes polarizing. But underneath all of that, underneath the performance, the volume, the drama, there's a guy who's watched a lot of basketball, who has talked to a lot of people in this sport, and who has developed a genuine sense for what matters and what doesn't. And on this particular morning, on this particular topic, he nailed it. Final thought. And I want you to really hear this. We are watching something special unfold in Oklahoma City. Something that doesn't come along often. A team built the right way, for the right reasons, with the right people at the right time, clicking into a gear that most teams never find. Playing basketball that is simultaneously beautiful and ruthless, sophisticated and athletic, young and mature all at once. The Lakers are the latest team to stand in their path. LeBron James, the greatest player of his generation, arguably the greatest player in the history of the sport, is the latest challenger. And even he, in Game 1, didn't have an answer. That's how good this is. Don't be distracted by the blame game. Don't let the noise about Austin Reaves or LeBron's age or the Lakers' roster construction pull you away from the main event. The main event is the Thunder. The main event is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren and a coaching staff and an organization that has done everything right. The main event is watching greatness, genuine, rare, historic greatness, do its thing in real time. And if Stephen A. Smith goes on First Take and tells you to stop blaming the losers and start appreciating the winners, he's right. Pay attention, because this Thunder team is going somewhere, and the ride is going to be something none of us forget. Game 1 is done, but this story is just getting started.